Hello everyone, my name is Brian Casson and welcome back to Casson Academy. I hope you guys had a fantastic holiday. Holidays are now over. Google, of course, in December did send us this really cool box of sweets. You can see I did very well in December by getting through these as well as our team, and it's great. But that's what this session is all about. We're going to be talking about containers. Google has a container called Tag Manager. Tag Manager is a container that allows you to put pieces of code in your site, but you only install a single code on your site. So that code that you install on your site is called Tag Manager. And the way that it works is it's like a bucket or container on your site. So when you want to add something to your site, you're going to use that bucket rather than going to your developer and asking them to add yet another snippet or another piece of code to your site. So it's very convenient, very easy to use. So when you want to add your analytics, we're going to use yellow for analytics. When you want to add analytics to your site, you simply add it to the bucket and you trigger it on certain pages, and that way it will run on your site. Then when you get the next tag or piece of code, like something like Google AdWords, and you need to do a remarketing list or anything like that, you can then add that tag to the site. You can also use external tags on your site. So if you have LinkedIn or Facebook or anything like that, and you have tracking code that you want to install on your site, you can add that to your bucket. It all goes into the same bucket so that you don't have to contact those developers again. So we're going to show you step by step how to use the bucket, how to use the containers, and we will walk you through each section. Let me put that away. Okay, so let's get right into it. So this is the introduction to Google Tag Manager. How do you get to Google Tag Manager? You're going to go, just Google it. Tag Manager. Don't need the word bucket at the end. The first one that comes up is Google Tag Manager. If you have existing tags, they will display, or if you have no tags, you will have the option to create a new account. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process. We're going to create a new Tag Manager account. So we're going to call this Casson Academy 2 because I've already got an existing one. You get to choose a country that you want this to run in. Of course, as usual, you can share data anonymously with Google. Okay, so I don't mind that. Then, of course, you do need to have a place in which you're going to put the tag on. So we are going to use Casson Academy for this one. So I'm going to copy the link for Casson Academy. And I'm going to go into... You'll notice that an error comes up if you try to use the W's or anything like that. So we're going to take off that part. And we're going to put in just the domain. And because this is different to our regular site, I'm going to rename it with the word Academy at the end, not to confuse it with our regular site. These tags can go on the web. They can go on Android or iOS apps, and they can also be installed on AMP pages. So it's asking you, where is this tag actually going to sit? Is it going to sit on your website, within an app, or is it going to sit on an AMP page? So in this case, it is going to be sitting on a website. Of course, the T's and C's, sign your life away. Okay, once you have created a tag, the first thing that it tries to do is give you a snippet of code to put on your website. This will now become the only snippet that you need to actually add to your site. Once you've added this snippet to the site, anytime you have other snippets that you need to add, you add them to Tag Manager. So the very first time you can add it. Now, if you have a static website or a non-CMS website, you'll need to take this first piece of the code and put it into the head section of your website. And you're going to take the second piece of code and you're going to put it in the body section right after the very first opening body tag. You're going to add this code right here. If you're using WordPress, I'm going to demo WordPress because it is the most used installation of websites at the moment, or CMS. So I'm going to show you how to do that on WordPress. So I'm going to close that. I don't need this. The only thing that I do need from this tag is this little GTM code that you see right here. Don't worry, if you close the window, you can still find the GTM at the top of the interface right there. Anytime you want to get back to the code, you'll be able to find it there. So I'm going to copy the GTM code. I'm now going to go across to WordPress, and under plugins I'm going to search for the word Tag Manager. So I'm going to add a new plugin, search for Tag Manager, and you can see there's a whole bunch of options that come up. A lot of these options do work, but I try to stick to either Google Tag Manager by Thomas Geiger. It used to be called Duracell Tom, but now it just says Google Tag Manager for WordPress. That's a great one. That's one that I've been using for a very long time. However, in December, there was a new release called Sidekick Kit by Google. And this will allow you to run a multitude of not just reporting services, but you can also install your tags through Sidekick. So for this particular one, I'm not going to get into Sidekick because I'm actually going to make you guys a video for that one as well. So we're going to do our installation by Google Tag Manager for WordPress by Thomas Geiger, and I've activated it already on the site. Once you've activated, you can go to your settings, and then under your settings you'll see Google Tag Manager. And inside the box, when you first start, it's going to be blank, like this. You're going to take that code from your site and you're going to put it into the box. Okay, so I'm going to paste it into the box. Make sure it's only the code. Sometimes you copy stuff from the page that you're not supposed to copy. So it's just GTM with the code. Now, a set it forget it way, but not ideal way to do it, is to put it in the footer of your page, or you can try and do a custom install where you would actually manually add it to your editor page under appearance, which is the better option. But just for the sake of this particular walkthrough, we're just going to allow it to run or trigger on the footer of your page. And click Save. Okay. Once you click Save, just remember, if you have any caching plugins running at the time, make sure that you clear your cache, because it might not appear right away. And I'm going to go into the front end now, and we're going to test if that Tag Manager code is active on the site. So just to recap, Tag Manager code that we're using in this one ends with P6J. We're going to go to the live site. We're going to look at the Tag Assistant. I'm going to enable it. This is an add-on that you can add to your browser to check what Google tags are firing on your page. I'm then going to reload the page, and hopefully it'll tell me P6J. There we go. Tag Manager is running. So an empty Google Tag Manager is running on the page, which is why it's showing up as orange, because yay, we got the container, but guess what? There's nothing inside the container. So we need to make sure that we now put stuff into the container. So it is live, it is ready to go. We're going to jump over to Tag Manager, and we're going to show you what's inside Tag Manager. The first thing that you need to know about Tag Manager is it's got something called tags. These are the snippets of code that you're going to be adding to your Tag Manager to run on your site. They have predefined fields. So as an example, if I go to Tag Configuration and click on this gray block right here, you can see all the predefined tags that Google commonly sees and will allow you to install with just one click. So everything from Twitter tracking codes to LinkedIn tracking codes, like LinkedIn Insights, trusted stores, most of the Google Ads merchant information. You can see Floodlight, it's got AdWords remarketing, we see that all the time. Conversion linker, and of course the most popular one that Tag Manager is used for, which is Google Analytics. So let's say you do want to put Google Analytics on your site. So I want to run a Google Analytics. I've got an interface here for Academy only, and I want that to run on my Casson Academy. I'm going to go to the admin of my Google Analytics, and I'm going to grab the analytics code. There's my tracking code, just the number I need. I'm then going to go back to Tag Manager. I'm going to say I want to connect analytics or add analytics to my bucket. And then I'm going to choose page view. And I'm going to add a new variable. And I'm just going to put the tracking code in there. And right away it tells you that this is what you're going to be doing because it knows that analytics needs a tracking code. And I can just say that this is my analytics tracking code variable. Just give it a name basically and push save. And now I'm going to label this particular tag as my Google Analytics. And I like to put the UA number at the end so I know which analytics I'm running here. So if you were to save at this point without adding a trigger, and you go back to your site and you refresh, you'll notice that there's still no analytics tag running. Once you add something to a bucket, doesn't mean that it automatically activates. You have to tell it which page on your website you want it to trigger, and that's when we get to the next section, which is called triggers. Step one, add to the bucket. Step 2, where do you want it to trigger, or where do you want this code to fire on your website? Now in analytics it's quite easy because analytics generally fires on every single page. So you can click triggers and you can click the word all pages and you can save and you're pretty much done on that side. And your analytics page will be running as soon as you push submit. So, but it also gives you the option to choose your pages. So if you don't want it to run on every single page, let's say it's a conversion-based page, you can choose to make it run on other pages. So there's a little plus button on the top here, and you can actually sit there and configure your trigger to run on only the thank you page, or only a add to cart page, or only when somebody clicks on something, and so on and so on. So triggers, there's multiple triggers. Of course, the most popular one being the all pages trigger, but there's a lot of ways for analytics to trigger different variables, different folders and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to say save here. Once you've saved, you need to submit. Kind of like WordPress, you need to actually publish something. So I'm going to say submit and publish. You don't need to write anything in the details unless you really want to keep track. Analytics code added. Okay. And now we've published it. And we go back to our workspace. So inside, underneath the tags, it should say Google Analytics. We can go over to the Academy. We can refresh the page. And now underneath our assistant, it tells you the Tag Manager is running. And within Tag Manager, we have Google Analytics, which is running. So if I was to go to 145-1 and go over to real time, we can test it to see if there is a single visitor. There we go. The one single visitor is there, so we know that that particular code is working on the site. And that's as easy as just adding one of the of course, there are other things that you can add. You can add Facebook tracking pixels. You can add LinkedIn tracking pixels. You can add custom codes. You can help with speed. There's a bunch of stuff that you can add. And as you get more familiar with Tag Manager, you'll see the different triggers and options that are available. Just to give you some ideas, it is possible in Tag Manager to track when somebody clicks on a view more. And it'll tell you exactly which one of these options had the view more clicks. You can allow it to track telephone numbers. So when somebody clicks on a telephone, you can track it in Google Tag Manager to say somebody interacted with that telephone number. Same thing with an address, same thing with a form, thank you pages, conversions, you name it, it can all be done through Tag Manager. So Tag Manager just makes it easy, because now I don't need to go to the developer and say, hey, can you please add LinkedIn tracking code to the site. We know what a pain it is to always be in contact with web hosts and developers and that sort of stuff. Now you can pretty much add the tag to your bucket, as long as that developer first adds the tag to your site. From then onwards, you do not need to bug that developer. It's very easy from there. So it's quite easy to figure it out. There are other variables that are hidden in the back that you can add. If you don't see them right off the bat, you can configure and you can add them. So if you want to do event tracking, container IDs, if you want to monitor error messages, you can turn them on. If you want to track clicks, you can turn them on. If you want to track forms, you can turn on all the fields for forms. Be careful with this section, because you could be stealing private information, and so on and so on. So you can see it goes on and on. You can see video provider, as example, YouTube. You can track starts and stops of videos and that sort of stuff. It even goes as far as tracking scrolling events. Did the person scroll up and down, and so on and so on. And I've got a great recommendation if you really want to learn Tag Manager very, very well. There is a guy named Julian from Measure School. Okay. And you can just do Measure School, and there's Measure School, there's Julian. And if you ever want to do very advanced Tag Manager stuff, he pretty much can cover everything to do with that. So we will be covering some of the more basic sessions in the Academy, even as much as event tracking and goals and conversions, that sort of stuff. But the very hectic stuff like data layers and stuff, we're probably not going to get into that till the end of the year or so. So you can quickly take a peek at Measure School and give Julian a try. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Tag Manager. Very easy, very easy to install. I think we do actually list this under the basic options. You can have multiple containers. So if you have multiple websites, like we got Casson, then we got the Academy, and then we got Brian Casson, they can all have their own tags or containers on within Tag Manager. And yeah, pretty much that's it that we have. I hope you guys can join us for the next session. This session today was not live because unfortunately in South Africa, the undersea cables are not doing so well, so we couldn't do the live session because a lot of the stuff's not working like YouTube Live. So hopefully next time we'll catch you live. Take care.